started today on the ground, nice and steady, like I said, restorative yoga. Thank you for coming. My name is Jaime Haines. I am a core and pelvic floor specialist, as well as a kinesiologist, a yoga teacher, aerial yoga teacher, and also a Pilates instructor. I am going to be taking you through some of the decompression exercises or our restorative yoga poses that help bring balance back to the core and to the pelvic floor. So starting down on our mat today, just have your blankets maybe off to the side or use them as a bolster if you don't have a bolster. We're going to begin in child's pose actually. If you have a bolster, you'll set it here in the center of the mat. You may want, depending on the length of your body, a block out there for your head, and you can make adjustments, or some people like to prop their hands. A blanket can be helpful for the back of your knees. If you take it in its length and fold it lengthwise, you can bring it behind the knees, make a little roll with it, and that can help with some of the compression in the back of the knee. You're going to melt your body over the top of the bolster. Now here again, let's get comfortable. In our restorative practice, we stay in each pose for several minutes. So I want you to build your nest of comfort. Maybe you want a little extra blanket depending on your height of your pelvis. Block could even be behind the hips, like you're sitting on it. Okay, so lots of different variations here to get into a place that feels nourishing. Once you're comfortable, you're going to relax. We've built the nest, and now we come into our breath. Perhaps you want to rest forehead, one side of your forehead on the hands. You can play around with different variations with your head, finding what feels good for your body, and then trying to find stillness. Taking nice deep breaths in and out. As you settled in, you may notice that your breath can find its way into your back. Feel how your breath can move into the depths of your waist and into your hips. Taking this time to come onto the mat with the breath in stillness. You may notice that the tailbone starts to gravitate and get a little heavier as you relax into your breath. If you have your cheek turned to one side, go ahead and try the other side. Continuing to stay with the breath. Very gently start to make your way up, finding your way back onto your bottom or just into this crouching position for a moment, transitioning to our next pose. We're going to find some release for those hip flexors in the front of our body. If you have a bolster, it will suffice all on its own. You'll just place it kind of towards the back end of your mat slightly so that you have room for the upper body. If you don't have a bolster, you can roll up some blankets, just like so. If you have a foam roller, it will also work if you need a moment to go get that. A yoga block might be a little bit much, but if you have a thinner blanket or pillow, you can set that over the yoga block, like so, to kind of simulate the bolster. So those are some options. No matter what you choose, what we're aiming for is finding our hip crease to come to the front. So if you see my jade line there above the pants, I want to have those hip creases near the front of the bolster. Legs will be out behind me. Now, I'm going to drop down onto the belly. At this point, the hips will be elevated. If you're experiencing any tension through the rib cage, I'm going to try to breathe through it, but you can also introduce a blanket under your torso if you need to, or perhaps a block. But our idea is to get as low as possible in the head. And as we surrender to gravity, the bolster or blanket, whatever you have under your hips, will traction our hips up, gently releasing some pressure. Deep breaths in and out here. Also know if your ankles or your backs of your knees are feeling pressure here, you can put a blanket or a yoga block under your feet to elevate your feet slightly behind you. Once you're settled, deep breaths in and out. Finding a place where you can relax your shoulders. Perhaps one cheek is on the floor. You can have your forehead on your stacked hands if that's preferred for your body. If you have one cheek down, switch sides. Take a nice deep breath in and start to make your way gently off of your bolster. Pressing yourself up and through. Maybe finding a child's pose there for a moment over the bolster, releasing the lower back. Taking nice deep breaths in and out. Coming all the way up, we're going to set up for a supported, seated wide forward fold. So options here, I'll set this up from the side. I'll have my feet out a little wider than the mat. I'm going to bring a block in. Now for some of you, you might find that you want the block. If you don't have a bolster, you can take a blanket and fold it in half, fold another one in half so that the chest can sit, and then the hands will just rest on the block, like so. If you have two blocks, you can even stack another block flat on it to rest your head. For some of you, you might like the blankets under your knees if it's difficult for you to straighten your knees. One sitting on the floor. The block can come out in front. And the bolster will come here right into the center of the pelvis. Square up the block to where it feels supportive. And then find your forward fold. If it feels too far forward, remember you can keep sliding this bolster back. Get that block tighter, and just a gentle little bear hug over. This is opening up the pelvis, helping you find space. Staying here with your breath. You can have your forehead just resting on the bolster in front of you. Or on the block in front of you if you're using that option. If you're on one cheek, turn to the other side, placing your other cheek on the bolster. Take a nice, steady, deep breath in. Let it go. Begin to make your way up gently from that forward fold. I'm going to bring the bolster behind us, setting up a block. We're going to bring the bolster over. If you don't have a nice thick bolster, perhaps you use a couch cushion or a seat cushion, a thick pillow. We're going to find ourselves reclining, and as we do that, we're also going to come into a bound angle. So you might want to take each blanket and place it under the knee so that you feel your knees are fully supported by the blankets. Our idea here is for our core, and mainly our hip flexors, to release the need to hold. So as we recline, the hips are solid on the earth. The knees are fully supported in space by the blankets. Our arms can float to the earth. And then here is where you can be for several minutes. And try to enjoy this space. Sometimes stillness and surrender is the work. Finding that permission to simply be with our breath. Notice any tension you may be holding through the chest, the natural inclination to keep tension in the shoulders. Trust the bolster. Allow the arms to become heavy. Perhaps you start noticing that the body has more softness around the breath. The abdomen has a little more space to breathe. Continuing to let your breath wash over you in gentle waves. Take a deep breath in and start to prepare yourself for gentle movements to come out of this pose and adventure into our next pose. So gently make your way up. We're going to transition our props. For the time being, we're going to set the bolster aside. We don't need it. This next one. You'll have a blanket or two, or maybe just one thick one. But we want to have a little bit of elevation here. And then place your block on top, closer to the back end. This is going to become your head pillow, and I want the shoulders to find their way on top of the edge here of the blankets. Like so. So I'll put my shoulder tips onto the blanket. I'll get the bolster comfy to where my chin is towards the center of my body, and I feel like there's a little spinal traction happening even. So it's at the base of my head there. There's a little space under my neck just to help bring my chin down. Now you might find that your psoas, this is a psoas release, wants your knees to stay bent. That's okay. You might also find that you can straighten your legs. Our goal here is to get comfy, but to be at a place where our shoulders are lifted up off the floor, supported by the blanket, and you might notice some space between your back and the floor, there below the shoulder blades, and into that mid back. And eventually your spine will be touching the floor and your hips. And if you're choosing to have your legs fall on your legs. Your hands can stay on your belly or your hands can come down by the side. And as we surrender to this pose, the idea is that we will be able to give our body weight over to gravity. And you might find that space between the back and the floor dissolving. Releasing the top of the psoas, finding some space. You may find that your stomach starts to make gurgling noises. I know mine is. As the tension that we often hold in our abdomen as we're moving about and around throughout our day, our breathing becomes more shallow. Our core is always on standby to help facilitate all of those movements. Therefore, when we find the stillness, other things within us that have been stagnant or stuck now are able to find their movement and their space. Taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Invite another deep breath into the body and sigh it away. Very gently, if your legs are straight, bring them into a bent position. Perhaps everyone just takes a moment to rock the knees side to side, Inviting movement back into the pelvis, letting it know we're about to adjust and change our shape. Now, if you have diastasis recti, that gap in the abdominal wall, you'll want to roll to your side first and then make your way up. And we have another adjustment here. Take the blankets and place them aside. We're going to come into an iliacus release. It's one of my favorites. You'll make your way back down onto your side, and again, if you have the separation of the abdominal wall, come into your back first, or side and then to your back. For this one, we do not have any bolsters under the head or shoulders because we're going to be elevating our hips. Preferably with the yoga block. You can also do this with a bolster or even blankets if that's all that you have. But the idea is to get the block, and we're going to set it underneath of the hips. Now, for some of you, this medium setting might feel too invigorating. If that's the case, you can come down onto the lower setting. This is where a bolster is also fine and lovely, and the blankets. Now, if you're choosing the block, you want to get it in the magic spot. You'll want to feel like you're in a nice supported neutral spine bridge. If the block is too low, you're going to feel like your back is sinking to the floor. If the block is too high towards your pants line, it'll feel like your tailbone or your bum want to fall to the floor. So find that sweet spot where you feel like you're in a supported bridge. We're going to be here for a few minutes, and for this one specifically, we're attempting to release the iliacus, which is another deep hip flexor muscle. It's in there with the psoas. It's in that group, and it often finds tension residing around it. It's in our stillness that we're going to be able to release some of that tension as we breathe deeply into the back and exhale, staying with your breath for this one. Notice if you're holding any tension in the shoulders. Allow yourself to melt those shoulders to the floor. You may start to feel a gentle slide, a glacier-like movement in the belly. This is the iliacus releasing its hold and bringing space into the deep abdomen. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. We're going to gently make our way off of our bolster, extra gently if you're on the block. You'll bring the feet slightly closer to you to lift the hips up. Take the block away and very gently melt your spine back to the floor. At first, you will feel many sensations. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathing in and breathing out. One more breath in and out. From here, we're going to go into some side opening restorative. Now for this one, if it's difficult to get your legs straight down on the floor, you can certainly find your way into having a nice long blanket, like so, across your mat at about knee level. You may also take your other bolster for this one if your head and shoulders carry tension and you find that your ribs travel up and your chin stays away from your chest when you are on your back. You can use your blanket to help bolster your head so that you get some relief from that tension. From here, take the right foot over closer to the right edge of your mat. And how far you go depends on your body. Then bring the left foot up and over to cross the right ankle. Take a nice deep breath in and out here. For some of you, for your body, this may be enough of a stretch. You might be getting sensations through the sides of the legs and hips that are enough for your body today, and you just want to breathe through this change of geography. If this feels nice and comfy and you want to add to it, you can take your left hand, reach it overhead and up and over, coming more towards the right side of your mat, creating a slight crescent shape of the body. Feeling that stretch from the left ankle all the way up the left side, through the left armpit, and up around the elbow through the hand. Settle in and be where you can feel the most comfortable. We'll be here for a few minutes as we breathe. Being in this position allows our ribs to experience more space. We're able to bring our thoracic, abdominal, and pelvic areas into alignment. That's the ribs, the core, and the hips. Very gently, if your arm is up, bring it back down. Find find your head back onto the center of your blanket or floor, and then uncross the left ankle from the right. Be here for 2 deep breaths. At this time, bringing your right foot over, so take the left foot closer to its side of the mat. That blanket can still be under the knee capsule. Right foot will come up and over. You might find that one side is a little stickier than the other. That's normal. We're all nature. If this feels like enough, stay here with just the lower body focus and your breath. If this feels comfortable and at ease, you can bring the right hand up and reach it towards the left side of your mat, creating that slight crescent shape of the body. We'll be here for a few moments with the breath. Find your inhale and exhale. Relaxing tension through your shoulders. Let your body melt into gravity. Take a deep breath in. Very gently let the arm come down. If it was up, head back to center. Right leg will very gently uncross from the left. Be here for a breath or two. Rolling onto your side, preparing to come up very gently to prepare your nest for Shavasana. So blankets can come under the knees where they were. You can stay just as you were. Or if you have a couple of blankets or you want more head support, you can create that. If you have a bolster or a bigger cushion, you can pull that under the knees. And find your nest for Shavasana. Find that space where your chin is relaxed, your ribs are relaxed, your legs can be draped over a bolster. Your hands can be at your abdomen or down at the floor. If you would like a blanket, you can cover up here. Take a few moments to just nestle in. Find find your space. And then return to your breath. Eyes can drift closed. Or if it's more comfortable for you, you can just keep a soft gaze, perhaps down your nose. Breathing in and breathing out. Today's practice was to invite space for the breath to find expansiveness, margin. So as you settle into Shavasana and you find your thoughts maybe linger or clutter your brain, I'd invite you to bring your awareness to the inhale, expanding like gentle points of light, and the exhale pulling those points of light back to the deep core. Inhale, radiating the light out from your center like little pinpoints, a slow motion firework. And as you exhale, feel all of those points come back to your center. And anytime your thoughts start to gather, come back to that practice as we are here with our breath. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. Breathe in. Release it. Another breath in. Let it go. gently start to move through your fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, and stretch the legs, gently move them around, finding some blood flow back in the hips. You can move the head side to side, whatever movement starts to feel good to wake up from Shavasana. You can bring your feet to the top of your bolster or blanket and gently windshield wiper your legs side to side if that feels good. And when you're ready, you'll come to one side. And take a deep breath in and out there. Very gently start to make your way up to an upright seated position. Bring your hands to heart center if you prefer, or hands on your knees. It's your practice. Take a deep breath in. Sigh it away. May you feel the gratitude that your body sends forth to you today for taking the time to pause, find stillness and space, and to breathe. Namaste. Thank you everyone for joining me today, and thank you for your patience.